Hello, Virginia Lacrosse Network. I am Wyatt Christopher. I'm a graduate of the 2012 Men's Lacrosse program at the University of Virginia. I'm a member of the 2011 National Championship team. I am the director of the Virginia Lacrosse Network, and now the host of the Virginia Lacrosse Network podcast. We are so excited to launch this podcast in our continued efforts to bring together this amazing group of alumni to learn about where they are, what they're doing, and the lessons they've learned through the game of lacrosse. We have a great group of alumni that we're going to be interviewing on a monthly basis, so we're excited for you to learn, tune in, and as always, go Hoos and wah-hoo wah. All right, everyone, welcome to the Virginia Lacrosse Network podcast, our first episode. We're here with none other than Coach Dom Starsia. Coach, thank you for your time.
Wyatt, I'm happy to be here. It's always good to see you, and the fact that these are the first of these podcasts is, I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. And I do want to start just with a little personal thank you. And I'm sure it'll resonate with a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast. But I got a list of questions that we'll run through. But I just wanted to start with a heartfelt thank you from me to you a long time ago at this point, which is crazy to think about. You took a chance on a kid from Davie, Florida. And I remember I've fallen in love with the University of Virginia, 2006. I'm 15, 16 years old. And seeing you in the 2006, at that time, almost undefeated, playing UMass in the finals, and seeing you guys on the TV in Davie, Florida, and having been in love with lacrosse and trying to think about where it was going to take me, and seeing you and that team on TV, and I said, whatever those guys are doing, I want to be a part of it. And so I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for me, taking a chance on me. My lacrosse journey has been unbelievable. Just between you and I, starting in Davie, Florida, moving to UVA, some tremendous highs, some tremendous lows. Moving to Harlem Lacrosse, our journey together starting in 2012, getting you up to PSMS 149, the Sojourner Truth School. And then recently working with the University of Kentucky men's lacrosse program and really helping them navigate how to build that championship culture. And now here we are. I get to interview one of my mentors and heroes and person that means so much to me as the director of the Virginia Lacrosse Network. So what a journey I've been on, and it's a huge testament to you and Coach Van and Coach Wright and the whole program. So I just want to start with thank you for everything you've done for me to put me in a position to live a really good life, using lacrosse as a tool to go about doing that.
Wyatt, I certainly appreciate you saying so. You have had an incredible lacrosse journey. There's been a lot of different chapters to it, certainly. Interestingly, for you and I, the connection with Harlem for you, your post-collegiate career, that's how I got involved. Harlem, you were their second full-time employee, and when the founder of Harlem, Simon Cataldo, told me what you were doing, I told him, I said, my exact words were, I said, that's not possible. That's not possible that Wyatt, this private school kid from Florida, has got an office in a public school in Manhattan, in Harlem, New York. And I went up and spent the day with you, and I was amazed at what you were able to do with those young people, and in the classroom and on the asphalt playing surface out back. And so I can remember at the end of the day basically said, okay, I'm in. I'll do what I can to help out here. I said, I'm busy. At the time I was still coaching, but I was happy to get involved with the organization. It's meant a lot to me. And, what you and Owen Van Arsdale and other people have been able to do at Harlem has just been amazing, really. And so you see a place where you're actually giving back. You're actually helping people. As a college athlete, you do a fair amount of community service and all, but this is Harlem is a life-altering setting for these young people, and it's been great to be involved with it. And like I said, you were the second full-time employee. We're now up to 61 for Harlem, and so you were there in the beginning, and that's how I got involved, and I'm happy to have been a part of this along the way.
Thank you. And one specific thing about that experience, and then I do want to ask you the first question, but I do clearly remember being, I think it was I guess it was junior year, maybe late in the junior year, or even maybe early senior year, and struggling with trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my career and my life. And a lot of the guys getting jobs already. Clem and Briggs, I remember, and Kugler, all those guys having those private equity jobs lined up and tech jobs. And I kind of just felt like there was something else different for me out there. And I remember you one day in the huddle just saying something along the lines of like, hey, don't think, don't jump to Wall Street. Go coach, go teach, go make a difference in people's lives. And a lot of people make a lot of difference in lives, no matter your job. But I remember like kind of being lost and really and stressed about it, which is why I've always leaned into the Virginia Lacrosse Network, because I've like I don't want the current players to kind of feel the stress I felt, and I want to help them navigate their careers earlier on because I felt like I could use that. And I remember you saying that and kind of using that as my driving force to that early phase of my career of you saying, "Hey, go make a difference in someone's life. Go teach, go coach, go get out there and make a difference." So it just a continued like appreciation for you and the lessons you've learned instilled in so many people and so many people that are going to listen to this podcast. But I do want to ask just kind of quickly back, just like talking about you and your bio. Obviously, it's covered so many facets of life, let alone lacrosse. At this phase of your journey, how do you introduce yourself? How does Dom Starsia walk into a room, and who are you and what's your bio and what are you saying about what are you up to in life, but using lacrosse as always a tool to make a difference in people's lives? What you don't need a much introduction anywhere, but if you were going to introduce yourself, what are you saying to people nowadays?
Yeah, well, it's just, I'm the former head lacrosse coach at the University of Virginia and Brown University. I have a chance now to kind of go back to my Brown roots a little bit more now that I'm free from coaching on a daily basis at UVA. And frankly, over the last couple of years, I've reconnected with the Virginia program. I'm happy to be involved there, and I stay involved in the game. I do the ESPN TV for University of Richmond, and I'm very involved with the Harlem stuff, and and so. But I'm Dom Starsia. That's who I am. I'm the former head lacrosse coach, and life moves on. I tell people all the time, that want me to do something for them because it might bring a little cachet to what they're trying to get done, whether it's Harlem or whatever. I say, with each passing day, my reputation diminishes a little bit, and so
Yeah,
while there's a little bit left here, use what you can, so we live here in the community. My girls are still here, so we're all of those different things. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a former coach, I'm a friend. The most gratifying thing, Wyatt, and this may come up again later on. When I was coaching, I used to always say that it was about the relationships. I can still remember Mike Pressler, the former coach at Duke, saying, he was sitting at a thing when I was talking to this group of young players, and I was saying, yeah, it's not about the championships, it's about the relationships, and he kind of nudged me and said, hey, that's easy to say when you've won 4 championships, and what I would tell you is that, the lacrosse piece of it was almost always wonderful. Even the times that we didn't win, there were ups and downs that were part of the journey. But what I can tell you is that, especially in these past 7 or 8 years since I was coaching every day, it absolutely is about the relationships. That's what stands the test of time. That's what holds up for me. There's some wonderful memories about the lacrosse piece of it, but the living, breathing part of it, for me as a person, is the relationships. It's running into you and talking to you, and I went out to San Francisco for Harlem a couple of months ago. I had dinner with Scott McWilliams and Rob Emery and Owen Van Arsdale and Matt Kugler, and Doug Knight was here at the house last weekend with his wife, because his son is playing for somebody else, and the fact that these connections all hold up over time. And when I get a chance to talk to people like you were mentioning earlier, we talk to each other in a way that we didn't really have time for when I was coaching. And
yeah,
you're pedaling the bike as fast as you can, and so the conversations are much more thoughtful now and much more meaningful. And it's meant a great deal to me, frankly. And like you implied earlier, what I always say to people is that if you treat this game with respect, it can be your friend for a long time. I don't take that for granted, and it's absolutely the case. And here I am, and I'm not getting any younger, but still involved with the game, is in different kind of capacities, and happy to do it. Just I'm on another leg of my journey, and so all good, and happy, like I say, happy to catch back up with you to do all the interesting things you've been doing in these past few.
Yeah, and thank you for always being so open to lending your time. And I thought I texted you after the University of Kentucky call, which was last year, which is crazy to think about. And texted you, said that was a book, because that was a masterclass on leadership and transformed a lot of lives. So thank you for just always being so open to giving back and opening doors and communicating to young people about the power of this game. I do want to see if I can take you back a little further to, I guess, the point of this podcast, right, is alumni, get them engaged, get them excited, and really bring them back to when they fell in love with UVA Lacrosse. And kind of, I alluded to that earlier, seeing you guys in Memorial Day weekend '06 kicking everyone's butt and being one of the best teams ever. And that was when I fell in love with UVA. And I remember I went and printed pictures out of you guys out the next day. I made my mom print them out, and I put them on my bulletin board next to my bed. And I would just sit there at night and stare at you guys. And it was Dixon and Ricky Smith and Matt Ward and you and all those guys, just and Mike Timms, and just legendary crew, Danny and Billings, and that group was just unbelievable. And falling in love with that. So I want to ask you that question, if you don't mind. Do you have a specific moment, or was it a buildup? But when you kind of fell in love with UVA Lacrosse, I know, just kind of curious where that love for this program and the programs kind of came from.
Yeah, I was the head coach at Brown for 10 years. And then when we heard in the spring of '92, when I heard that Jim Adams was going to retire at the end of the '92 season, I came home and mentioned that to my wife. It's actually the title, it's not a plug, but the title of my book is,
Yeah.
when I mentioned very innocently, just mentioned that Jim Adams was retiring. I heard that that was going to happen. And she said to me, "Well, I hope you'll be very happy," and implying obviously that she had no intention of moving to
Yeah.
anywhere, so for us, we were sort of entrenched in the community in Providence, Rhode Island. I have a complicated family situation. My kids, I have my two older ones in all the gifted and talented programs. I have special needs twin daughters, and so it was going to be a big move. And so the Virginia thing, I mean, for the lacrosse piece of it, and I told when Craig Littlepage and Jim Copeland at the time, the athletic director, when I first met them, I said, "This is really not going to be about lacrosse. This is going to be about whether or not this is the right move for my family." Because the lacrosse piece of it was, you come to a place like Virginia, you realize, you understand that you're going to be able to compete more regularly for, a higher level of success, compete on the final week, a chance to play on the final weekend. It hadn't happened in Virginia for some time, but it was a program that on the competitive side of things was just going to be a different kind of challenge, and one that was so anyway. I get here, and at the point that when I came in the spring of '92, Virginia hadn't won a national championship in
Yeah.
20 years. I tell people all the time, I had never won a national championship. So that was the
Yeah.
charge, obviously, but, we hadn't done it, I had never done it. I've never experienced it, but we had the '93 season. We had a good season. We won a playoff game. And in the next year, '94, was only my second year here. We kind of come out of nowhere we were the 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. We beat North Carolina on the road in the quarterfinals. They were the 4 seed. We played the number 1 seed in the semifinals. We're down 5 to Syracuse going into the fourth quarter. We're down 2 men to start the fourth quarter and down 5 goals. Come back and win in double overtime. It's like, holy moly! So what a game. And then we go play Princeton in the championship game and don't win. You know, but the level of play and the commitment of the athletes, which was building at that time for us, building the program and all, when we
Yeah.
saw what we were capable of, that was really kind of cool, and so, for me, attachment to Virginia, the level of play that we could attain on an annual basis, that became an attractive piece of this. I keep going back, Wyatt. Uh, it's about the guys. It's about all the people along the way, this journey that we all took. But at the same time, the lacrosse was really fun.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to get involved, a little frustrating in the beginning. We get to the final game in '94, we don't win. We lose in overtime. Get back to the final four in '95, we don't win. We get back to the overtime at the NCAA finals in '96, we don't win. And so feeling in the beginning that, oh, we're gonna win a bunch of these things, and then
Yeah.
not doing it for 4 or 5 years. So that when we finally broke through in '99, it had been 25 or 26 years since Virginia had won a championship at that point, and you know. That was a really exciting moment, and I was glad for all the people involved for whom that was very meaningful and all. And so the lacrosse piece of it, my attachment to the program and to the level of play, it grew over time,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, you know, I I thoroughly enjoyed the competitiveness of what we were trying to do. And you look at different situations in different years, we were able to do some things that I think contributed to us winning a championship or persevering at the end. That can be very gratifying at the same time, and so. And so it was all of those things together that are somewhat unique to a place like Virginia. The quality of the people involved, the caliber of lacrosse that we're able to get to on a kind of on an annual basis, that is not available at every school.
Yeah. So a quote that I think about all the time, it's kind of transformed my life and everything I think about and do is what you would say all the time was it's worth it. And that's really what I think you're kind of alluding to as you talk about it is kind of like, hey, over a period of years, it took yourself and others and the players to really start taking that next level of, from my assessment, it's worth it is talking about, hey, if you want to be successful at something, it requires sacrifice, right? And that's kind of like the foundational piece. And you said as a coach, your job is really to convince young men that the sacrifice required to achieve the ultimate goal as a team is worth it, right? So, and everyone that's going to hopefully watch this, especially as an alumni of Virginia Lacrosse, is a high achiever just by trade. Like you go to UVA and you're a high achiever, you want something. So we've got CEOs, we've got high performing athletes now watching. We have people that want to build their career and take things to the next level. And as you're talking about those early years, can you be precise and say, like, what were those little adjustments that got you from really good to ultimately great as a team, as a program, as an organization? Like, what are those little things that make a huge adjustment that kind of fall under that it's worth it umbrella?
Well, you were listening, White, clearly, because and I still give that same message to people now. I was talking to the Virginia team just a couple of weeks ago, and Lars asked me to come over, and I spoke to the team for about 30 or 40 minutes, and we talked about that. And the kind of the final sentence of my talk with these guys is always just that: is that for my job, has been over the years, my job has been to convince groups of young men like you that it's worth it. It's worth the sacrifices that are required in order to be successful. And over the years, you could point very clearly, very specifically to some of the sacrifices. You think of in '99 we win the national championship. Jay Jalbert was an All-American attackman as a sophomore in '98. Connor Gill was coming to campus. He's going to be a freshman. Thought that he was capable of stepping into our starting lineup. My three attackmen from the year before all came back. All three of them All-American caliber attackmen. Connor was the most sort of attack-like of the group. Somebody had to move to midfield. It was, and what happened was Tucker Radebaugh is a left-hander. I need a lefty on the attack, so he stays. Connor Gill's going to play on the attack. And then Drew McKnight and Jay Jalbert. And Drew actually had shoulder surgery in the fall of '98 and couldn't play that fall. And so I went to Jay basically and said, Jay, you get the booby prize here, because we need to start working with one of you have to move to midfield and I need to start working with somebody. He didn't really want to do it at first. He was a reluctant participant, but eventually he did. winds up as the Middie of the year. Virginia wins his first national championship in 27 years that spring, and there are other examples of like that. Billy Gladding in 2003, wanted to play on the offensive midfield with Chris Rotelli and AJ Shannon, his classmates and roommates. And it would have been a great first midfield, but I needed somebody to play on the defensive midfield. And again, Billy, I said to Billy, I need you over here at this end of the field. And a little reluctant at first, eventually said, I'll do it, and went on to be a second team All-American. He's covering Hopkins's best attackman in the national championship game. We're not sliding to him. Scores 5 goals in the ACC championship game, winds up as the tournament MVP, those kind of things. But when you go back to getting over the hump, in terms of, so it's 96, we lose in overtime in the NCAA finals. It's 97, it's 98. We're close. We're banging on the door. We're not getting there. What was the spark that got us through in 99? And I would tell you that I'm sure that you've heard me say this, is that all the people often ask me about the common denominator of our successful teams, and that common denominator has been extraordinary or exceptional internal leadership. It's guys in the locker room. And I would tell you in the very beginning there, it's somebody like a Tucker Radebaugh, who was our captain. And, you're trying to imagine all the different things you can do in order to get over this hurdle that Virginia hasn't been able to cross in a number of years. And it was in there. It was in the locker room. I didn't know if I had to recruit somebody else or invent a better practice plan or a better extra man play. No, it was just, we had to, kind of turn the team over to somebody that was in the locker room that was ready to lead, and Tucker had been an outstanding leader in the program prior, but the circumstances were just right for him in the fall of 98, going into that 99 spring. And you got somebody who's willing to stand up and say, look, this is what we're doing. We're going to do it like this every single time. We are not going to deviate from the path. And the other guys on the team kind of fell in line. Were willing to follow and listen, and that team to this day, I would tell you, is probably the hardest working team I've ever had. And so we're trying to get over this. We're trying to get over this hump that Virginia's been struggling with in terms of winning the championship. We get to the final weekend in 99. It's 120 degrees. It was really blazing hot and stuff. But that we had worked, they knew that. They drew confidence, even though we hadn't done it. 2 ways of developing genuine confidence: knowing that you've done it, which we didn't have, or knowing that you're absolutely prepared, which we felt like that going into the weekend. So when it came up really hot, we just felt like, hey, we deserve this. We have worked to get ourselves into this position, and we got to make this happen now, this weekend. And so we beat Hopkins in the semifinals, and then playing Syracuse, which the Syracuse Virginia games in those days were all classics. And so it probably made it even more gratifying to have it be Syracuse in the final game to win that 99 championship. And so that, again, it keeps coming back to me, keeps coming back to people. What are you willing to do? Who do we have that is willing to step up and lead, and then have an influence on the other people around him that makes them willing to follow? And that was, I think, was what got us to and took us to that next level.
Yeah, and I want to dive deeper in the weeds there real quick and then pull us back out as we keep going. And I could sit here all day and talk to you. So thank you again for your time. But I think when I'm thinking about that too, like, and you've brought it to reality when I spoke to the University of Kentucky kids. And so I'm trying to a couple experiences and compile and then pass it to you. Is Kentucky kids recently, the 2011 national championship team that I'm so grateful to be on. And it's worth it as well as one of my favorite stories ever that resonates so well with people, which is, you always said, hey, if you can get up and go to breakfast every single morning, you're putting yourself and this team in a really good position to accomplish your goals. And that resonated with the Kentucky boys. And I passed it on to high school. I did a post about it earlier on LinkedIn a week or 2 ago, and people were going crazy about it. And so to me, you brought us back to reality with the Kentucky boys, because we were talking a lot about winning a championship this coming May. and you said, "Hey, can you win today? Enough about the future. What about today? Why are we not why are we not talking about today?" And I think that to me seems like, because the only thing that really exists, right, is today, is reality, is like the present moment. This is all we have. And I think the teams that I'm seeing, and when I researched these teams and been on the 11 team, that 11 team, we weren't sure we were having it tomorrow, right? For most of the year. And towards the end of the year, it was one day at a time was our survival. And that was one of the first teams in a while that, hey, we might not make the playoffs here. We've got to win this game in order to get in, when we're used to in the back half of the season kind of feeling like, hey, we're going to get in the playoffs and make this run. That team made that run because we realized that, hey, this is it. We've got one day at a time, and we got to stop worrying about all this stuff in the future. So can you just touch on the idea of like how can people win the day? What are things they can be doing on a daily basis? They've got big goals. Everyone in this program has monster goals. We all want to be champions on and off the field. How can you actually like achieve that through your actions on a daily basis?
Um, yeah, in 2011, when we wound up winning the championship, which was that, 2/3 of the way through that season was very unlikely. People afterwards were always saying to me, "Oh, what a great plan you had." It was like, "Are you crazy?" There was no plan. There was no
Yeah,
long-term plan. We were
yeah,
just trying to get to tomorrow. Win today, get to tomorrow. I spoke to the Richmond team a couple of weeks ago. Talked to those guys, and they're a program that's trying to get to that next level. And they work hard. I really admire their coaching staff and what they do over there and all. And but telling the team, they play their out of conference schedule is, Duke, Virginia, Maryland, Georgetown, Cornell, and so talking to them, I felt like I told them, I said, look, don't try to back up from the big picture, and focus on the things you can control. If you try to imagine to yourself that how are we going to beat Virginia down the road, or how are we going to beat Duke down the road, or what do we need to do in order to make the NCAA playoffs or win our conference and all, it can be too much to try to handle on a daily basis. And so, again, I would tell people in lots of different situations is that, you know, just focus on today, just take care of your business today. The best chance that you have, and it's hard to envision this, but the best chance that you have of beating Duke or being successful against Duke in 3 weeks is to be the best version of yourself today that you can possibly be, and so you need to be able to unlink that game and focus on what you're trying to actually do, to trying to take care of your own business on a daily basis. It goes back a little bit to, we used to, it became a little bit of almost a little bit of a joke, when I used to talk about no big games. I would never allow the team to talk about, oh, this is a big game. I would say, what do you mean a big game? We have, we're playing Hopkins this week, and what happens when the Hopkins game is over? We got Maryland next week, is that a big game too? And so, the point of that was to try to get guys to realize that they're all big games, they're all big days. And so it just helped us to, try to be able to focus on what was really important, which was sort of taking care of the things that you can take care of. And so uh, two things. One is that, trying to get things to a manageable scale, and a manageable scale, I think, is more in terms of what you're doing on a daily basis. And the second piece of it is that I spend a lot of time talking to young athletes about, again, you can have a lot of personal goals, but if your main goal was to aspire to lead, you know, the chances of you have a chance to accomplish individual things way beyond what you're even imagining for yourself, and so all the things that go into being a great leader, being a person that is that person in the locker room, could take you to places that you can barely imagine. And so, my message to young people these days is, generally along those kind of lines. It's worth it. We talk about that, and that's actually the breakfast thing. That's sort of, I used to call the Matt Pasquet rule. That was
yeah,
Matthew, who won 2 national championships and was an academic All-American, a modest high school student, frankly, graduates from the McIntyre, and again, with 2 national championships and this and that, and his basic rule was I get up for breakfast every day. And so it doesn't mean I can't go out at night, but I'm up for breakfast the next morning.
Mm.
And he captured all those extra hours that he could put into doing the things he wanted to do. He became an All-American and just had a great career. And so for me, and when I'm again talking to young people, how do I get to be better? Get up in the morning and work out in the morning. I said, with every passing hour in the day, there's more distractions and more things to keep you from the task. And so get up first before everybody else and get it done that way, so.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to try not to mess up. I should mostly just let you keep talking, but I do want to maybe have us take a step back and kind of go back to the beginning, if you will. And this game obviously has meant a lot to you, and it's given you a lot, and you've given it a lot. And I think at the end of the day, you've taught me this stick and this game teaches you life lessons, right? And it's a tool to help you reach your potential and to build relationships. So I feel like at every stage of your career, it's teaching you a different lesson. So I'm curious at this phase of this chapter in your life and with the game, what lesson is this game teaching you the most right now? Maybe about yourself, about your family, about the game. Like how is it speaking to you now at this chapter of your life with the game?
It just continues to talk to me about the people involved, about relationships, about how you treat people, whether or not you're willing to make those sacrifices. Do you want to be a leader? Um, um, a couple of years back, 4 years ago now, I got a call from the Blue Ridge School. They were their lacrosse private school about 30 minutes north of here, and their coach left in the middle of the year, and they were in a bind. And so at first I told them, nah, I'm not interested in that. But I went up and took a look. Anyway, I coached there 1 year, and I thought I was just getting them through a year, and it turned into 3 years. And I loved it. It was old school lacrosse. I'm coaching
Yeah.
at both ends. I'm chasing balls. Here I am, the big hotshot former coach at UVA, I'm doing all the things. It was just a joy, and then that the school. These young people, even more visibly than a place like UVA, where guys are a little older, a little bit more mature, a little bit more formed. These kids needed and some mentoring and some
Yeah.
advice and things. So you really felt like you're making a difference. So I get to use my tool. They have respect for me as the former coach at UVA, and so I can use lacrosse to have an influence on these young people and hopefully help them along the way. And so that to me is wonderful. The fact that I had a chance to still do that, and going over to being somewhat involved with the Richmond program. I had breakfast with the Virginia captains not that long ago. So I just thoroughly enjoy doing it. I'll tell you, why, think of it in terms of with sports in general. I find myself much more interested in the stories these days than the scores. And
Mhm.
it almost seems a little every year. Maryland's going to be pretty good. Duke's going to be talented. Virginia's going to be good. But then you see these stories, or you follow the career, you hook onto the career of somebody. It's to me, it's a much more fascinating exercise. And luckily for me, I'm still involved with the game at that level where I get involved with people and try to help them out if I can. I feel like I've got a lot of experience, and if I can use that to help somebody navigate, his own personal journey, then
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. I've had opportunities to get paid for things. My wife says, "Why don't you get paid for some things you do?" Uh, that's not really what's important to me. I just
Yeah.
like I said, it's very gratifying to me if somebody just appreciates that I'm able to give them a little help.
Yeah. And I think Lars and the staff, and I think even the PLL now are doing a great job, kind of bringing the game back to its roots, back to Native American roots. And it's a medicine game for a reason. It brings peace to people's lives and brings people together. Even my journey, I mean, starting in Davie, Florida, and then playing lacrosse in Harlem, and then I was in Kentucky, and I used to live in Bastrop, Texas, outside of Austin, and lacrosse was there. And I couldn't. I joke around all the time, like I can't get rid of this sport. Like everywhere I go, it's there, and it's staring right back at me in the face, saying, "Hey, I'm right here for you, and I'm always going to be here for you." So I'm curious, like, how do you? And I know you do have a deep connection with the sport, and a lot of people that are deeply ingrained in its history. How do you make sense of this game, how what it does to people, how it brings peace to people, the calming effect, the togetherness of it? How is it hard? How do you how do you wrap your head around how this game works and the impact it makes on people's lives?
Yeah, I think that I probably don't think about that a great deal, but I live it, I do believe that there's a spiritual aspect to the game that derives from the game's Native American roots. I believe that, I don't take that for granted. And I don't think that every sport would be able to make the same claim. So I still play a little bit. I mean, it's pathetic, but we play up at Lake Placid in the summer.
Yeah.
I'm north of 70 years old now and still involved with the game that way. And I have a bunch of Native American friends that I really love and respect, and they help me stay connected to the roots of the game. So, and again, we talked about it earlier. We talk about talking to young people about respecting the game. This is something that can be your friend. It can be something you can lean back on. I can remember days in college. I was first generation to go off to college. First in my family, I didn't know an adult figure that had gone to college growing up. Neither my parents, none of my parents' friends or relatives had gone to college, and so go off to Brown University. I am struggling, struggling in the classroom, struggling socially. I was a little comfortable on the athletic side of things, but when I started playing lacrosse in the spring, our Sundays was our day off. I was always with my stick at the field, oftentimes by myself. And it was just a comfort. And so, again, so people might think you sound like you're a little bit crazy, okay, well, I'm telling you that that's what this game can provide for you if you'll open up your eyes and ears,
Yeah.
and see what's actually happening, and listen to what's out there, and give the game a chance. So it's a part of my life, like some other very important things are a part of my life. And I try not to dwell on what you were mentioning earlier so much, but it's there for me in everything that I do. And a day doesn't go by when I'm not thinking about the game in some capacity, or thinking about somebody who played the game for us. The relationships that we
Yeah.
have were because of lacrosse. And I think that, when people listen to me and they sort of buy into the commitment part of it, then there's a chance that our relationship is going to be more meaningful, and it's going to last longer. And people that we talk to, I'm actually headed off to a memorial service. One of my former Brown players was killed in an accident, a week ago. And I'm going to go up and attend the service, and see a bunch of old friends, and those again, those relationships hold up.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that about your former player.
And I appreciate that. It's just it's a tragedy. Life.
Yep. Yeah. And real quick, the lacrosse, how you phrase it, kind of, it's always there for you. I recently moved back home to Florida, and I started playing lacrosse here in eighth grade, 2000, I guess 3, 4, and been best friends with a young man, Chase, who is in sixth grade, and we've been playing together since eighth grade. And he's lives down here, and he started coaching again in lacrosse, and he plays in this pickup league, and he invited me to play in this pickup league. And um, I didn't have any lacrosse stuff going on. And then all of a sudden I have all this lacrosse stuff going because he reached out and said, "Hey, come play, come coach, come get involved." And the game has just jumped right back into me. But it made me think about the idea that um, him as a best friend since sixth grade, he's been there for me every day, right? And rain or shine, I've never had to second guess who my best friend is ever. And I think that's the best compliment you can give something, is that it's always there for you. And that's the best, that no matter what, I think the highs and lows of life, no matter we're all going through, you need something that's always going to be there for you. And so I think as simple as and complicated as lacrosse, a stick and a ball and a wall will always be there for you. So I think it's pretty interesting just to think about the spirit of the game, is the idea that, like, hey, no matter what you're going through, that stick still cares about you. That ball cares about you. That wall will be there for you as a friend in need.
And you probably haven't thought a great deal about the fact that lacrosse was part of that relationship with that friend of yours, you know.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of us, it's a thread through our lives that ties different pieces of our lives together, you know. And again, um, I don't think it happens in every instance. I don't think athletes in other sports experience the same thing. You know, I'm not bragging about it.
Yeah.
I think lacrosse has some different, has a different feel to it that way.
Well, I want to take it one direction, but before I do want to say, it's kind of on that line, like, everyone's life that is in this network that have been coached by you and recruited by you, right? We kind of had a life, and then you entered it and said yes to us going to UVA, and our lives have been just, for most of us, for the much better, just completely changed and having had this experience. But you served as kind of the filter, and you start with a bunch of kids you're going to recruit, and ultimately you guys sit in an office and pick a few every year that you say, hey, we're gonna bring them UVA. And that decision that you make, the difference you make in someone's life, like the who they become, the experiences they have, the jobs they have, the spouses they have, the families they have, the money that, like, you have, like, that ability to make that big of a change in someone's life. How do you kind of, is this another one where you don't think about it as much, but do you ever think about that idea of, like, how many people's lives you've been able to impact by saying, hey, we want you to come here and be a part of this program?
Um, and you know, we played against a lot of guys who who I didn't convince to come to
Yeah.
UVA. And
Yeah.
you know, at the Harlem event this past year, just a few months ago, I ran into John Hess and Scott Bacciagalupo, two of the Princeton greats from those days. And I talked to both of them in the recruiting, and they obviously didn't come to Virginia, and they're good guys, and they've had great careers also. You know, I just there's just so many guys. I mean, I haven't really sat and dwelled about the numbers of guys and stuff, you know. Um, but I just run into guys both back in my Brown days and you know, and the UVA guys, you know. I just run into guys doing everything. And the fact that somebody will pick up the phone that I coached, you know, 40 years ago, will pick up the phone and call me when you know, he might need some advice or just wants to tell me something. Again, is just very gratifying. And you know, you know, it is what this is all about, you know, so.
Yeah, well, I do want to ask you, kind of this, talking about the game, maybe the state of the game a little bit. I know you're seeing the game in a lot of angles. I'm grateful to see it in a lot of angles right now. My nephew, 6 years old, lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. I went to his Pee Wee lacrosse practice a couple months ago and was blown away by the numbers and the organization, the structure. There was field after field of kid playing lacrosse in little Cary, North Carolina, a little subdivision outside of Raleigh. I'm coaching high school lacrosse. I think there's the level of high school talent is very strong right now across the whole country. And then you've got college that's, I got a lot of moving pieces. The athletic world, college athletics in general, college lacrosse, there's just a lot there. The growth of the game, you and I spent some time with Kentucky, so there's a lot of potential in the club space. And then you got the PLL that I think is mostly doing the right things and growing the game and has opened up a new frontier. I was just spending time with a 12-year-old who wants to play at Georgetown, and his dad asked me if I could mentor him a little bit and give him a plan. And his goal in life is to play professional lacrosse now, right? And so there's real goals for 12-year-old boys outside of college. And so there is a new frontier. But there's a lot of moving pieces in lacrosse. We're going to 2028 in the Olympics, which is, a monumental next milestone for the game. It feels like it's got all the potential to take that next step, but there's a lot of pieces at play. So how are you seeing the game right now? What's your viewpoint on the game? How do we keep the momentum alive for this game, but also keep it true to itself? I'd say the last thing is, all the club teams and travel teams. I know it is based off my understanding kind of hurting. It's a challenge to the game because it can test people's wallets, but it can also test their patience, and it could test their love of the game when they're going to places, not learning to develop and compete, but really being in a showcase type of money type of situation. So there's just a lot of at play. So I'm just curious how you're seeing it and feeling for the next phase of lacrosse throughout the country.
Yeah, there's a lot there, Wyatt. I worry about the state of the game with the clubs and tournaments and things like that because of particularly because of the expense piece of it and the exclusivity of it. There's
Yeah,
an element in developmental lacrosse of affordability. I want to continue to play the game. It's diminished the high school seasons a little bit, these club teams and all, and you basically got to be able to afford to do it. I don't know how we expand the game into communities where somebody could have a meaningful experience, without having a big wallet, a large wallet and stuff. Interestingly enough, for you and I, Harlem does that a little bit, and the coolest thing about Harlem was that in the beginning, when I would ask these young people, mostly minority kids in these schools, say, why lacrosse?
yeah,
And the truth of it is that, when you give a kid some proper mentorship and some coaching, you convince him that you care about him, and you introduce him to the game, they quickly learn to love the game as if they grew up in Baltimore or on Long Island. That's what I was seeing in New York and Baltimore and in these city programs. And so you'd like to think, how do we get the game to these people? I don't know what the answer to that is exactly, but we got to keep trying, to expand the game and to make the game more affordable for folks. In terms of the different varieties of the game, I like some better than others. Frankly, the sort of the sixes game, which is going to be the Olympics part of it. I'm not opposed to anything. You can do whatever you want.
mhm,
But the PLL indoor tournament is going on right now, and one of the scores last night I think was 32-25. To me, that's this, it's too easy to score in that version of the game. It's like playing box lacrosse indoors with full size goals, which, are just, to me, it's too easy to score. The PLL is, I think, doing a lot of the right things. The pace is a little frantic for me, in terms of the shot clock being so quick. Uh, and the international game for me is a little too slow.
mhm,
I think the game. I think the colleges have it right now. I think it's taken some time, but I think with the shot clock at the college level and the time of the clock and the 60-second reset, I don't think the college game has ever been better. And now you can win a game. You're down 2 goals with 4 minutes to play. You're going to get the ball back. You don't have to crazily go out after something and maybe give up a cheap goal. You're going to get the ball back because of the clock and all, and so it's made for some really exciting play in the college game and all. So I don't begrudge anybody all these other different versions of the game. It'd be great if
yeah,
the game gets into the Olympics and things like that. Um, I prefer watching, one version of the game over another one and all. And what we are seeing more of, which I think is good for the game, is we're seeing more young people playing small-sided games. I think that,
yeah,
continues to be an emphasis and should be an emphasis. The problem with the small-sided game for the little guys and gals is the goalie. If you're going to play you can play in regular sized goals and you're playing small sided games, a lot more shots for those. Some little kid is going to get in the goal once in one of
yep,
those games,
yep,
then he's
yep,
going home. He's not going back in the goal. So then people say, "Well, make the goal smaller." You make the goal smaller, the goalie gets hit more. He's filling up more of the cage, and so we haven't quite figured out in the field version of the game what they benefit from in the box version of the game. In the box version of the game, the goalies are padded properly. And the reason those guys are so good around the goal scoring wise is because almost every shot you take it when you get in the box is with the goalie in the goal. And so it's just it really sharpens your shooting and finishing skills and stuff. And I think we understand that. We just haven't figured out how to solve it because it doesn't transfer to the field game or some version of the field game quite as easily and stuff. So I think there's a lot of good stuff going on in the game. Again, I worry about the club growth of the game because of the expense piece of it and the exclusivity of it. You know, but like I say, with Harlem and some other things, there's some other growth areas of the game. I think the game
Yeah.
is expanding, and that's been fun to watch that and be a part of that over the years.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely it's an evolution for sure at this phase. And as we spend just the next couple of minutes winding down, trying to turn it back to Virginia lacrosse and UVA lacrosse, maybe do a somewhat rapid fire just to hear your thoughts and put you on the spot just a little bit. So if you were going to think about your UVA lacrosse coaching career, and this will be hard, but can you pinpoint one game that stands out to you as your favorite game to have been a part of?
I think that was the '94 semifinal. I mean, we had that 22-21 game in the Dome in
Yeah.
'97 and won a national championship in '99. There's a lot of great games over the years, but that '94 semifinal game, down 5 to Syracuse, the number one seed in the going into the fourth quarter, down 2 men to start the fourth quarter, coming back to win. I think our team and a lot of Virginia alums at that point didn't realize that we were capable of doing that. And so I think we crossed a little bit of a threshold when
Yeah.
we won that game. And I can't remember a game that was more exciting than that one right there.
Yeah. And even, yeah, picking a needle out of the haystack, is there a certain play as you were a coach, a certain play that just hits the spot every time you think about it? Someone making the right play at the right time, the UVA way. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Um, a single play, that one you got me on the spot for. I think of uh, the 2011 championship game. If you had told me going into that game that Chris Bachlan and Steele Stanwick were going to have one assist between the two of them, I
Yeah.
would have said we have no chance of winning that game. And if it wasn't a single play, but the fact that Steele in particular, I think he had the one assisted between the two of those two good guys, but he had like 5 hockey assists. And
Yep.
so here's somebody who's willing, the best player on our team, but willing to do the things that were required for us to be successful and
Yeah.
drawing attention to himself and moving the ball to somebody else, put us in a position to win that game.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm going to see Baca this weekend. I'm playing in a men's league up in Jacksonville, and he can't play anymore. His head injury, but thankfully he's better. But I'll see him, and then my class, we're getting together for a golf trip in Kiowa that Matt Kugler's putting together at the end of I think first weekend in May, June. So I'll see those guys, and the journey continues with that group. But I guess two more questions would be one more on the spot, if you will. All right, national championship, games tied, overtime. We're playing Cuse. Out of all the players that you can give the ball to that you've coached at UVA, who are you giving it to get the game winning goal?
Oh, that's you can't help but offend somebody by
Yeah,
doing that.
it's a crazy
JJ
list.
Albert was probably the most talented player I've ever coached, and so starting any play with the ball in Jay's stick would probably wind up probably put you in a good spot at the end of the day. I think of Matt Ward. Matt Ward was the most sort of driven, focused guy. If you needed something done,
Yeah,
I would give it to Matt Ward. I can't. Michael Watson,
yeah,
he won that '94 championship game. He was the one that he ran by Rick Beardsley in the second overtime for us
yeah,
to win the game. He was a freshman at the time. Jesus Lord, there've been so many guys, and
yeah,
there've been such a a bundle of riches there of people to choose from. Connor Gill got a key goal in that '99 championship game. He got the goal. We were up a goal. Syracuse was chasing us all around. We hadn't won a championship in 27 years, and Connor comes around and gets one left-handed. With a minute to play in the championship game as a freshman.
yeah, yeah.
There were just way too. And I'll tell you who the best player for the year, and that I don't know if anybody had a better 2006 or better lacrosse season than Kyle Dixon did in 2006. I mean, he
Yep.
was to be one of the top middies in the PLL for years and stuff.
Yep.
So he couldn't be covered by a pole, and so
Yep.
he'd have the pole every time. He'd still dodge the pole, draw the double, find Matt Pasquet on the back door someplace, and
Yep.
so we could put together an offensive unit of six guys uh, that might all need to have a ball, but they would be they would be fun to watch. Sorry,
Well,
I just can't
no,
wait.
it was good. No, I was gonna ask your all-time roster, starting 10, but I won't. I know you want to keep these relationships. And the other joke was, I know you secretly wanted to pick Ryan Benacasa, but you don't want to upset everyone. But I do have to give a shout out to Benacasa, one of your favorites. Last, I was just taking a step back, just say Virginia Lacrosse, men's and women's programs are operating at a high level, challenging time, exciting time in the college athletic landscape, great coaching staff, great players. As alumni, for you, knowing a lot of these alumni, what's your message to us right now? How do we get involved? How do we lean in? How do we keep making sure that we can walk into a room in Virginia Lacrosse means something to a lot of people that are in the lacrosse world? What's your message to the alumni?
The sand is shifting so quickly under everyone's feet in college sports. A college program, Virginia lacrosse, men's and women's side. It is a community exercise. It cannot be left solely to Lars and to the players. They need everybody involved. They need the parents involved, but they really need the alums involved. We need to do the things that are going to strengthen the program a little bit behind the scenes, perhaps, but of
Yeah,
great value to the program. And it's the emotional support that people can provide. It's the financial support that people can provide. It's all of these things, and so for these athletes that have these experiences, for Virginia to compete for championships, you need everybody doing their very best. That gives you the best chance to be successful. And the more people that are willing to be a part of it at any level and in lots of different ways, that's what's going to give Virginia the best chance to be successful at the end of the day. It's absolutely, needs to happen at that level.
yeah. Thank you, Coach. Well, I'll wrap us up how I started. Just thanking you for everything you have done and everything you continue to do for making all of our dreams come true. Playing UVA lacrosse, and very grateful for you. And we'll be in Charlottesville in a few weeks, and would love to come say hi. And thank you to you and the family, and hi to the girls from all of us at UVA lacrosse.
I appreciate it very much, Wyatt. I'm sure we'll catch up and look forward to it. And thanks everybody.